walked through the wide hallway of the Galactic Academy for Advanced Species. His shoes made soft sounds on the smooth floor. The corridor walls were silver and glass. Everything was clean and perfect. Around him, alien students moved between classes. Their bodies came in all shapes and colors. Some had wings. Some had extra arms. Some looked like walking crystals made of light. Was 15 years old. He had dark hair and brown eyes. His body was smaller than most aliens at the Academy. He wore the Academy uniform, a simple dark blue suit with the Academy symbol on the chest. In his right hand, he held a reinforced carrier made of transparent polymer. Inside the carrier, something moved. The movement made students stop and stare. Did not look at them, he kept walking. He knew the way to the xenobiology classroom. He had studied the Academy map all week. The map was in his mind now, every hallway, every turn, every door. He had memorized it because was careful about details. He prepared for things. He did not take risks he had not planned for. Inside the carrier, the animal moved again. It was a honey badger. His name was Orion. The honey badger was only 3 feet long. His body was covered with black fur and a white stripe down his back. His claws were sharp and curved. His teeth were small but strong. His eyes were dark and always moving. Orion had been a rescue animal, found him in a wildlife center on Earth. The badger had been injured and most people did not want him. Most people were afraid of honey badgers. They were right to be afraid. Honey badgers were known across multiple star systems. Scientists and explorers had traveled to Earth and learned about them. Honey badgers were famous for being fierce. They did not run from danger. They ran toward it. They attacked things much larger than themselves. They had a strong poison they could spray. They had thick skin that made teeth and claws difficult to use against them. They were known as one of the most aggressive animals in the galaxy. But Orion was different with Orion was calm. Reached the xenobiology classroom. He stopped at the door, he took a breath, then he walked inside. The classroom was large. The ceiling was high. There were seats arranged in a circle, not in rows like human schools. The seats were different sizes to fit different body shapes. Some were big and flat for large species. Some were small and curved for smaller beings. One seat had water in it for the aquatic students. Professor stood at the front of the room. Professor was 10 feet tall. His skin was green and had patterns of yellow lines. His eyes were large and gold. He had a long tail. His voice was deep and made sounds that were hard for human ears to fully hear. He was the Academy's head of discipline. He was respected and feared by every student. The professor looked at. His gold eyes moved to the carrier's hand. His tail stopped moving. The other students noticed. 23 students from different planets stopped talking. They turned around in their seats. They all stared at and the carrier. A student named Lyra had purple skin and no mouth. She communicated through telepathy. Her eyes went wide. And student named was made of silicon and crystal. Light moved through his body in waves of color. The color changed to red, which meant alert or surprised. A student who looked like moving glass made a sound like breaking ice. That sound meant fear or warning in language. Professor moved forward. Each of his steps made the floor vibrate slightly. He moved with purpose. He moved like someone in control. Student, the professor said. His voice had no warmth in it. What is that object? Lifted the carrier. This is Orion, sir. He is a honey badger. He is from Earth. I adopted him legally. I have all the required permits from the Earth Council and the Federation of Worlds. The permits are on file with the Academy Admissions Office. A honey badger, Professor said. The words came out slowly. You brought a honey badger into this academy. Yes, sir, said. I did. The professor's tail moved in a way that meant anger. Do you understand what a honey badger is, student? Yes, sir, said. I understand fully. Then you understand that this creature is forbidden from all neutral educational facilities, the professor said. The creature is classified as a predator. It is aggressive. It is unpredictable. It has no fear response. It has killed creatures 10 times its size. It is regulated under the Dangerous Species Accord. Orion has been trained, sir, said. His voice was steady. He has been with me for 2 years. He responds to my commands. He is safe in controlled environments. Professor's gold eyes looked at Orion. Orion looked back at the professor. The honey badger's small eyes showed nothing. No fear, no anger, just calm observation. This is a violation of Academy protocol, the professor said. You should not have been allowed to bring this animal through the Academy gates. The security officer at the gate examined my permits, sir, said. He contacted the admissions office. He was told the permits were valid. The professor's tail moved in a way that meant frustration mixed with respect. He respected accuracy and facts, had been accurate. Bring the animal to my office after this class, Professor said. We will discuss this situation with the Academy Council. Until then, you may attend this class. The animal will remain in the carrier. Yes, sir, said. He walked to an empty seat. It was one of the smaller seats made for human-sized beings. He sat down. He kept the carrier on his lap. Orion moved inside the carrier but made no sound. The honey badger seemed calm. Lyra, the student, turned around in her seat. She was sitting in front of. Her telepathic ability let her speak directly into a person's mind. Felt her thoughts arrive in his head like quiet words. That was brave, her thoughts said. Or stupid, I have not decided which yet. Thought back at her. The Academy had given him a basic telepathic receiver so he could communicate with telepathic students. It is neither, he thought. It is honest. I have all the permits. I have followed all the rules. The Academy's own security approved my entry. The Academy Council will not see it that way, Lyra's thoughts said. They see a human with a dangerous animal. They see a threat to order. Then they will learn what a threat actually looks like, thought, and it will not be me or Orion. Professor began the class. He talked about xenobiology. 1 week after walked into the xenobiology classroom, the Academy Council still had not made a final decision about him. Professor argued that should be allowed to stay. He had followed all procedures. His permits were legal. There was no rule that said humans could not bring rescue animals to the Academy. But the council was divided. The representative wanted removed. The valued order and tradition. They said a honey badger had no place in a school of higher learning. The representative was neutral. She said the Academy should observe before deciding. The representative, an alien from an aquatic world, argued that had shown respect for protocol. He believed in giving the human a chance. While the council debated, attended all his classes. He did not speak about the council meetings. He did not complain about the uncertainty. He simply went to class every day. And he proved something. In planetary survival class, earned the highest score on the practical exam. The test required students to survive for 12 hours on a simulated planet. The environment was deadly. The temperature changed rapidly. The water was poisonous. The creatures were dangerous. Adapted faster than any student in Academy history. He found water sources the simulation said were safe. He built shelter from dangerous materials by understanding which ones had unexpected properties. He avoided the deadly creatures by studying their movement patterns for just 5 minutes and then predicting where they would go. His teacher, a silicon being named Seven, asked him how he knew so much about surviving dangerous environments. I am from Earth, said simply. Earth is humans survived it for millions of years before we invented technology. Survival is in my bones. In Advanced Xenobiology, wrote an analysis of how different species understood cooperation. His paper showed that humans were unique. Most species cooperated because it made them stronger militarily or economically. Humans cooperated because they had emotional bonds to each other. The bonds made them willing to sacrifice for people they did not even know. This was unusual in the galaxy. Professor read the paper 3 times. Then he recommended it be published in an Academy journal. It was the first time a first-year student had received such recognition. In historical analysis, answered questions about how species approached conflict. He talked about human history. He talked about wars and peace and how humans had learned to choose peace when they could. He talked about how humans understood that winning a war meant nothing if your people were destroyed. One of the other students was unnamed. They were militaristic. They believed that strength was the only thing that mattered. They believed that species either conquered or were conquered. They did not understand the concept of peaceful cooperation unless it made them stronger for future war. Listened to his presentation. Then he said, your species is weak. You choose peace instead of strength. You will be conquered by those with real power. Did not get angry. He did not raise his voice. He said, the humans on Earth survived for thousands of years without a unified world government. We fought many wars, but we also learned something important. Conquest costs resources. Peace creates resources. A species that understands this survives longer than one that only understands war. Survival is weakness, said. Survival is the opposite of weakness, said. Species that conquer everything have nothing left to keep them going. Species that survive know how to adapt when everything changes. The class was quiet, did not respond, but his eyes showed that he thought humans were foolish, not wise. During all this time, Orion remained calm. The honey badger stayed in its room in the Academy residence building. The room was small. It had a bed, a desk, a window, and a door. It had space for Orion to move around. The university provided food for the badger. Regular food, not the poisonous insects that wild honey badgers ate. At first, other students avoided its room. They were afraid of Orion. But as the weeks passed, some students started to visit. Lyra came often. She was curious about Earth and about humans. She wanted to understand how humans thought so differently from her species. Came too, he was interested in how humans adapted to changing conditions. Silicon beings had stable structures. They did not change easily. Humans changed quickly. This fascinated him. One day, a young or student named came to his room, was from an aquatic species. She had never seen a land animal except in images. She was terrified of Orion at first. The honey badger was small and fierce and had nothing in common with any creature she had ever met. But took out Orion and let him sit on his lap. The honey badger made a sound like purring. His fur relaxed. He looked at with calm eyes. "He is not what you expected," said through her translation device. Her words came out like clicks and whistles that the device turned into common language. "No," said, "he is exactly what he is, not what stories say he should be." Reached out slowly. Orion let her touch his fur. His eyes stayed calm. "He reminds me that the truth is different from reputation," said. By the end of the second week, students had forgotten to be afraid of and Orion. They had become ordinary parts of academy life, just a human and his honey badger attending class like anyone else. On day 15, the Academy Council made its decision. Was allowed to stay. The honey badger was allowed to remain as registered rescue animal. The council voted 3-2 in his favor. The OR and representatives voted yes. Professor voted yes. The and another representative voted no, but 3 votes were enough. Received the message in his advanced xenobiology class. Professor told him at the end of the session. The professor's tail moved in a way that meant approval. "You have earned your place here," Professor said. "Not through force or aggression, through intelligence and proper behavior. The Academy Council has recognized this." "Thank you, sir," said. "Do not thank me," the professor said. "You proved something to this academy. You proved that humans are not the simple, aggressive creatures we expected. You proved that you think like we think. You plan like we plan. You contribute like we contribute." "I just followed the rules and did my work," said. "Exactly," Professor said. "You did not fight the system. You worked within it. You showed respect for procedure. This is the mark of a civilized species." That evening, Lyra came to his room with and 2 other students. They brought food from different worlds. They sat together and talked about their families and their homes, told them about Earth. He told them about the oceans and mountains. He told them about human cities and human art. For the first time since arriving at the academy, felt that he belonged. But the next morning, something changed. A ship arrived at the academy station. The ship was sleek and dark. It came from the collective. It carried Lord's father, High Commander, and a delegation from the government. They had come to meet with the Academy Council. They had come to discuss why a human student was being allowed to attend their elite institution. Saw his father in the Academy main hall. He smiled. He said something to his father that could not hear, then pointed at. Felt the weight of the moment. The humans at the Academy had been accepted through merit, but acceptance could be taken away just as easily as it had been given. Something was about to change at the Galactic Academy. Something bigger than rules or Council V was in the Academy's lower research sector when the alarm sounded. It was late at night, had not been able to sleep. He came down to the research sector to study in the archive room. The Academy allowed students to access research materials at any time. Wanted to understand more about xenobiology and how different species worked. He sat at a terminal, reading about genetics when the alarm began. The alarm was different from the normal warning alarms. It was not a regular tone. It was a repeating pattern that meant emergency. The lights in the corridor changed from white to red. The change happened fast. The entire sector went into lockdown mode. Stood up immediately. His mind moved quickly through possibilities: an accident in a laboratory, equipment failure, a power problem. None of these things were uncommon in a research facility with technology from 100 different star systems. But then he heard the second alarm. This one was different. This one meant containment failure. Ran toward the central control room. Other researchers were moving in the same direction. They looked confused and frightened. An alien who looked like a floating cloud made of gas moved toward. "What happened?" asked. "Containment failure in Laboratory 7, the alien said. "Multiple specimens have escaped. Security is responding, but containment systems are not responding to commands." Felt cold in his stomach. He knew what specimens were kept in Laboratory 7. He had read about it in the Academy's restricted files. Laboratory 7 held dangerous creatures, creatures that were created by old wars between species, creatures that were designed as weapons. The Academy kept them in permanent containment because they were too dangerous to exist anywhere else. They were creatures that could kill. The researcher, who was a moving cloud, continued speaking. "Security systems appear to be malfunctioning. The backup systems are not activating. It will take at least 20 minutes for manual systems to respond." 20 minutes was a long time when dangerous creatures were loose in a facility that held students. Made a decision. He turned and ran toward the residential sector. The residential sector was where the students lived. If the creatures had escaped and security systems were down, the students in the residential sector were exposed. They were in danger. The corridors were chaos. Alarms continued. Red lights flashed. Students who had been sleeping were running through hallways. Some knew where to go, some did not. An older student named was standing in the corridor, frozen with fear. "Run to the upper levels," told him. "Go to the central tower. It has protective barriers. Go now." Ran. Other students heard and followed him. They moved toward the upper levels and away from the residential sector. But did not follow them. He ran deeper into the residential sector. He went down a stairwell. He ran toward the lower corridors where younger students lived, first-year students, smaller species, students who could not move fast enough to escape danger if danger came to them. As he ran, his mind calculated. The creatures from Laboratory 7 included 3 specimens. One was a Vex predator. The Vex were creatures that had been genetically modified thousands of years ago. They were designed to be perfect hunters. They had regenerative abilities. Their bodies could heal from injuries that would kill normal creatures. They had high intelligence and could plan. They had no mercy and no fear. If one of the Vex predators had escaped and moved toward the residential sector, first-year students had almost no chance of survival. Turned a corner and saw something that made his blood freeze. 3 younger students were huddled against a wall. They looked small and terrified, and in front of them, blocking the only exit from the corridor, was the Vex predator. The creature was larger than expected. It looked like a shark standing upright on powerful legs. Its skin was gray and smooth. Its eyes were black and empty. Its mouth was open and teeth showed, sharp teeth, many teeth. The creature was breathing slowly, like it was taking time to consider what it was about to do. One of the students, like Lyra, was crying. Her telepathic thoughts broadcast fear across the corridor. The other 2 students and a small aquatic being were pressed against the wall, unable to move. Took a breath. He looked at the situation like a problem that needed solving. His human brain worked fast. He was smaller than the Vex. He was weaker. He could not fight the creature and win. But he did not need to win. He needed to save the students. He took off his academy jacket and threw it at the creature. The Vex's head moved toward the jacket. The creature's instinct was to follow motion and attack. The jacket fell on the ground, and for 1 second the creature's attention moved away from the students. Ran forward. He positioned himself between the predator and the students. His body was small compared to the Vex, but his human body could move fast. His muscles had power that came from surviving His mind had no hesitation about what he was doing. "Run," said to the students. "Run now, go to the upper levels, go." The student looked at with surprise. Her telepathic thoughts screamed danger and fear, but she moved. She pushed the other 2 students, and they started running down the corridor away from the Vex. The Vex's attention came back to. The creature took a step forward. Its claws scraped the floor. The sound was cold and sharp. Did not run. He did not move backward. He held his ground and looked at the creature with steady eyes. Inside him, his human heart was beating fast, but his face showed no fear. His body showed no weakness. Something vibrated in the air above him. The sound came from his room. Orion had somehow escaped from the secure carrier. The honey badger had sensed danger through the walls and the distance. The honey badger knew its keeper was in trouble. Orion came running down the corridor, moving as fast as his small body could move. The honey badger's eyes were focused. His small body was moving with purpose. He was not afraid. He was not hesitant. He was not thinking about what the Vex was or how dangerous it was. Orion simply knew there was a threat too, and he had to stop it. The Vex turned its head slightly toward the sound, but used that moment. He ran forward past the creature toward the wall beside it. The Vex's head snapped back toward, its teeth showed wider. The creature was ready to attack. Then Orion hit the creature's face. The honey badger was small, but the impact was powerful. Orion's claws went for the creature's eyes and sensory organs. The honey badger's bite went for the soft parts of the Vex's face. The honey badger felt no fear and no hesitation. Orion attacked like he had trained his whole life for this moment. The Vex screamed. The sound was horrible and loud. It echoed through the corridor. The creature thrashed and tried to grab Orion, but the honey badger moved with a speed that came from generations of fighting creatures larger than himself. Security personnel came running down the corridor. They had heard the Vexes scream. They saw the creature on the ground, wounded and angry. They saw a young human student standing still and watching. They saw a small honey badger attacking with fearless precision. One of the security officers fired a tranquilizer. The dart hit the Vex in the neck. The creature screamed again and tried to move, but the tranquilizer was fast-acting. The Vex fell to the ground, unable to move. Orion stepped back from the creature. The honey badger had bite marks and scratches from the Vex's claws, but he was alive. His wounds were not serious. His eyes were still focused and calm. A medical officer ran to, "Are you injured?" "No," said, his voice was steady. "The students are safe." They ran toward the upper levels. "You are lucky to be alive," the medical officer said. The Academy Council met in emergency session the morning after the creature escaped. They watched security footage of and Orion in the lower residential corridor. They watched a human teenager stand between a deadly predator and younger alien students. They watched a honey badger attack without hesitation or fear. Professor presented the facts to the council. The human student acted with extraordinary courage. He did not hesitate. He did not question the risk. He positioned himself as a barrier between the students and the predator. His actions allowed the younger students to escape. Without his intervention, 3 students would have been killed. The council member, who had always opposed having at the academy, listened to the professor's words. Then she said, "This changes nothing. The human should not have been in that location. The human should have reported to security personnel instead of handling the situation himself." "The human did handle it himself," Professor said. His voice was cold. "While security systems failed and backup protocols did not activate, the human succeeded. The human succeeded because humans have the ability to adapt to situations that they have never trained for. They have the ability to make decisions based on what is right, not what is safe. This is not a weakness. This is a strength." But the investigation into the containment failure revealed something else, something that changed the entire conversation. The security investigation discovered that the containment had not failed by accident. Someone had deliberately disabled the security systems. Someone had manually opened the containment doors. Someone had released the 3 creatures on purpose. The investigation found evidence that pointed to one person. Security logs showed someone using High Commander's access codes to disable systems. Security logs showed someone accessing restricted areas where they should not have been. The evidence pointed to the student who had argued within class, the student whose father had recently arrived at the academy. The Academy Council called High Commander to explain. The commander arrived with political representatives from the collective. He was a tall being, even taller than Professor. His skin was dark red, almost black. His eyes were intense and angry. "My son used security codes that belonged to me," High Commander said. "My son borrowed them without permission. My son made a serious error in judgment, but his intention was not to create chaos. His intention was to remove a threat to Academy stability." "His intention," Professor said slowly, "was to create a situation where a human student would be blamed for the chaos and expelled. His intention was to prove that humans were too dangerous for the Academy. "Is this not true?" High Commander asked. "The human brought a dangerous creature to this Academy. The dangerous creature attacked another dangerous creature. They are unpredictable. They should not be trusted with positions in higher education." The council chambers were quiet. Then Doctor, the Academy's lead researcher, stood up. She was a Tellurian, a species known for scientific accuracy and research. She held papers in her hands. "I have analyzed the recording of how the human student responded to the containment crisis," Doctor said. "I have compared his response to how other species have responded to similar situations in the past. The human's response shows something unique." She put down the papers and continued. "Other species, when faced with dangerous situations, calculate risk to themselves first. They evaluate whether to help or to run. The human calculated risk to others. The human made a decision to accept personal danger to save beings he did not know. This is not common in the galaxy. This is actually very rare." "The human species is known for this behavior," Doctor said. "Humans will accept personal injury for complete strangers. Humans will sacrifice personal safety for moral reasons. This has been documented in human history for thousands of years. Humans have stories and songs about this behavior. They celebrate it as the highest virtue." High Commander stood up. "This is weakness. This is why humans should not be trusted." "No," Doctor said. "This is why humans should be valued. Species that only think about their own survival create unstable societies. Species that are willing to sacrifice for others create societies that can trust each other. Humans are not weak. Humans are exactly what the galaxy needs more of." The council member spoke through telepathic transmission. "The facts are clear. A human student and his animal companion saved 3 lives. A student deliberately created danger to cause harm. The question is not whether humans are safe. The question is whether we will judge all humans by the actions of one and judge all by the actions of one." The council voted. They voted to expel from the Academy. They voted to accept formal apologies from the collective. They voted to recognize Orion for their heroic actions. High Commander left the Academy. He was embarrassed and angry, but he could not deny that his son had been caught in deliberate sabotage. He could not deny that his son had tried to cause harm. He could not deny that a human had saved lives while his son had tried to destroy them. The collective's government was forced to acknowledge that their prejudice against humans had led to this situation. They agreed to establish diplomatic discussions with the Human Federation. They agreed to explore what a better relationship between species might look like. That afternoon, Lyra came to his room with other students, and were there. Several other students came too. They had brought gifts from their home worlds, food, books, objects that had meaning in their cultures. "You saved us," one of the younger students said. Her name was, and she was a Orlike. "You saved my friends, you saved me. We would not be alive without what you did." "I did what anyone would have done," said. "No," Lyra said through telepathic connection. "You did what humans do, what few other species would do without hesitation. Your species is unique because you value life, all life. Not just your own people, but strangers, beings from completely different species. You value them because it is right to value them." "Humans understand something," said. His light waves changed to a pattern that meant respect. "Humans understand that cooperation across species makes all of us stronger. You practice this even when it costs you. This is not weakness. This is the highest form of strength." Felt something in his chest. He had been afraid that he would never belong at the Academy. He had been afraid that his species would always be seen as dangerous and simple. But the other students were looking at him with respect. They were looking at him with genuine friendship. Even Professor came to see that evening. The large walked into the small human's room and had to bend down to fit inside. His gold eyes looked at Orion, who was still healing from his wounds. "Your species," Professor said, "is what I have always hoped other species could be. You demonstrate courage without aggression. You demonstrate intelligence combined with compassion. You demonstrate that strength and gentleness are not opposites. I was wrong in my initial assessment of humans." "I did what I thought was right," said. 6 weeks after the crisis in the lower residential sector, the Galactic Academy for Advanced Species held a formal ceremony. The ceremony was in the central atrium, the largest space in the Academy. Hundreds of students gathered. Faculty members from every department attended. Representatives from galactic governments sat in honored positions. walked through the corridor on his way to the ceremony. Orion walked beside him on a small leash. The honey badger had fully healed from his wounds. His black and white fur was clean and carefully brushed. His eyes showed the calm confidence he had developed over the past 6 weeks. The corridor was lined with students. They stopped to watch pass. Some of them bowed. Some of them made hand gestures that meant respect in their cultures. A student named Lyra stood near the atrium entrance. She reached out and touched shoulder as he walked past. "You have changed this place," she said through telepathic communication. "You have changed us." Did not feel like he had changed anything. He had simply responded to danger by trying to help. He had simply tried to do what was right, but he understood what Lyra meant. His actions had showed the Academy something true about his species. His species was capable of more than anyone had believed. Inside the atrium, the ceremony began. The headmaster of the Academy stood at the center. She was a being made entirely of crystal and light. Her voice echoed through the large space. "We gather to recognize extraordinary courage," she said. "We gather to acknowledge actions that saved lives. We gather to recognize a student and his animal companion who demonstrated what it means to truly value others." She gestured toward, "Step forward," walked through the gathered students. Orion walked with him. They stood in the center of the atrium, surrounded by hundreds of beings from hundreds of worlds. "You came to this academy as an unknown quantity," the headmaster said. "Your species was not well understood. Your presence was questioned. But you responded to every challenge with integrity and courage. You completed your studies with exceptional grades. You demonstrated that humans are not the simple, aggressive species that stereotypes suggested. You showed us that humans are thoughtful, creative, and willing to sacrifice for others." She made a gesture, and other academy leaders came forward. They carried a medal. The medal was made of metal from 50 different worlds. It had symbols representing 100 different species. It was the Academy Medal of Honor. It had been given only 3 times in the Academy's 500-year history. "We present you with the Academy Medal of Honor," the headmaster said. "You have earned this not through conquest or strength, but through character." Accepted the medal. The atrium filled with sounds of approval. Different species made their own sounds of celebration. Students made sounds like breaking ice. Students sent waves of telepathic joy. Silicon beings like changed colors to bright gold and white. Then the headmaster gestured again. Another academy leader came forward. This leader was Doctor, the academy's head researcher. Doctor said, "The Academy Council has voted to establish a new academic program. This program is called the Human-Alien Relations and Diplomatic Studies. This program is designed to help other species understand human culture and human values. This program will prepare students to work together with humans in galactic society." She paused. "The Academy has asked you to lead this program as student coordinator. You would work with faculty members to develop curriculum. You would teach other students about human perspective. Would you accept this role?" Felt surprise move through his body. He was only a first-year student. He was only 15 years old. But he understood what this meant. This was recognition that humans had something valuable to teach the galaxy. "I accept," said. His voice was clear and steady. The ceremony continued for another hour. Faculty members gave speeches about the importance of understanding different species. The council member spoke about how telepathy had shown her that humans had emotional depth she had never expected. The OR representative talked about how humans' willingness to help others had inspired her to encourage more cooperation between their species and others. When the ceremony ended, walked back through the corridors. His academy robes now carried a new symbol on them. The symbol showed humans and aliens standing together. Students continued to watch him pass, but their expressions were different now. They were not wondering if humans were dangerous. They were wondering what humans could teach them. That evening was in his room when Lyra and came to visit. They brought news from the Academy's communication network. The Human Federation had received reports of what happened at the Academy. The Human Federation was shocked and proud. They were pleased that humans were beginning to be recognized for what they truly were. "Your government is sending more human students to the Academy," said. His light moved in patterns of excitement. "They want humans to study here. They want humans to be part of galactic education. There will be a permanent human housing block," added. "Your government is negotiating with the Academy to create a space where human students can live together. But many humans also want to live with alien students. They want to continue the connections we have started. Looked out his window at the stars. He thought about Earth, his home world. He thought about his parents, who had worried when he came to the academy. He thought about how he could help them understand that humanity had a place among the stars. "I want to stay connected to all of you," said. "I do not want to separate humans from aliens. I want to bring more humans to understand what you understand. I want your species to realize that friendship across different species is possible. I want this to become normal, not unusual." Lyra's purple face showed what looked like a human smile. "This is why they chose you for the new program. You understand something that most beings take their entire lives to learn. You understand that difference is not threat. Difference is opportunity." Over the following weeks, more changes came to the Academy. The Academy Council approved new admission policies. They actively recruited human students. They created scholarships for humans from Earth who wanted to study advanced science and technology. They established a permanent human cultural center where human music and art could be shared. Was asked to lead orientation for the first group of new human students. These students were 16 and 17 years old. They were nervous about coming to an alien academy. They were afraid they would not belong. Talked to them about his first week at the academy. He talked about how the other students had feared him and Orion. He talked about how acceptance came through proving your character, not through trying to hide who you were. "Humans are unique in the galaxy," told them. "We think differently. We value things that other species have forgotten about. We value loyalty even when it costs us. We value fairness even when we could gain through injustice. We value protecting others even when we could save ourselves by doing nothing." He held Orion in his lap as he spoke. The honey badger had become an informal symbol of the human presence at the academy. Younger students often asked to meet Orion. They wanted to understand how a creature considered deadly across the galaxy could be calm and peaceful when it was with humans. "Orion is not dangerous to us because he is loyal," said. "In the same way, humans are not dangerous to the galaxy. Humans are valuable to the galaxy because we are loyal. We form connections. We keep our promises. We help those we have never met before. This is what makes us strong." One of the new human students, a girl named, asked, "Will everyone always be afraid of us like they were afraid of you?" "No," said, "because I showed them that fear was based on misunderstanding, and now you will show them, and the humans who come after you will show them. Eventually, humans will not be unusual at this academy. We will be normal. We will be friends. We will be colleagues and teachers and students working together with other species." Was walking with Orion through the academy gardens one afternoon when he stopped to think about how far he had come. He had arrived as an unknown student with a controversial animal. Now he was being recognized as someone valuable. But he had not changed who he was. He had simply shown the academy who humans really were. "We did it, Orion," said softly. He touched the honey badger's head. "We showed them that a human and a honey badger could change the way an entire institution thinks about an entire species." Orion made a small sound, almost like agreement. Looked at the academy around him. Alien students of hundreds of species walked through the gardens. Some studied, some rested, some played games that existed only in their home worlds, and now there were human students walking among them. Students who believed they belonged because one human teenager had shown them it was possible. The Galactic Academy for Advanced Species was entering a new era. It was an era where humans were recognized not as dangerous to be controlled and monitored. Humans were recognized as valuable members of galactic society. Humans were recognized for the unique perspective they brought to understanding cooperation, loyalty, and the true meaning of strength. On that afternoon in the Academy Gardens, with his honey badger at his side, understood that the greatest power in the galaxy was not physical strength or advanced technology. The greatest power was the ability to change minds, the ability to show others that their assumptions were wrong, the ability to demonstrate that different species could not only coexist but could truly be friends. And it had all started with a human child and a honey badger walking into a classroom. The Academy had learned that day that true danger was not what came with aggression and force. True danger came from a species willing to care about others. True danger came from creatures who would sacrifice everything for what was right. The honey badger had known this all along. The human teenager had learned it through living his truth. And the galaxy would never be the same. "Exactly," Professor said. And in doing what you thought was right, you have changed how this academy sees your entire species. You have changed our future together. I believe that is the most powerful thing any individual can do." The professor left. Orion rested his small head on his lap. The honey badger had learned during this crisis that his human was different, that his human was brave, that his human was someone worth protecting and following. Outside's window, the stars of the galaxy spread across the darkness. Each star represented different species, different worlds, different ways of thinking. But for the first time since arriving at the academy, believed that all those different worlds might be able to understand each other. And it had taken a honey badger and a human teenager to show them how. Looked at Orion. The honey badger looked back at him. In that moment understood something. Luck had nothing to do with it. A human who understood survival. A honey badger that had no fear. Together they had made the difference. The security team moved quickly. They took the Vex and put it back in containment. The tranquilizer would keep it unconscious for hours. By then, proper containment systems would be online. By then, the facility would be secure. An investigation would begin. Questions would be asked about how the containment failed. Questions would be asked about why the security systems did not respond. Questions would be asked about a human student and a honey badger who saved students that many thought would surely die. But for now, sat with Orion in the corridor. The honey badger let clean his wounds. The human student was breathing slowly, letting his body calm down after the danger passed. The academy would never be the same after this night. Was coming, and a honey badger from Earth would have nothing to do with stopping it. He talked about how different species adapted to different planets. He talked about survival and evolution. But every few minutes his gold eyes looked at and the carrier. The other students watched the carrier more than they watched the professor. Orion sat calm inside the transparent case. His black and white fur did not move. His claws stayed inside the case. His teeth did not show. He was exactly what had taught him to be, patient, controlled, waiting. By the end of the class, the entire academy would know about the human student and his honey badger. By the end of the day, the academy council would be in emergency session. By the end of the week, everyone would question if Orion should stay at all. But for now, in this moment, sat in his seat. He took notes on xenobiology. He learned about species and planets. And beside him, in a transparent carrier, a honey badger from Earth waited to show the galaxy what humans and their animals could really do.